You got yourself your first car and you're struggling to drive it. Pull off at junctions, you stall. Pull off side road, you stall. Pull off a roundabout, you definitely stall. Pull off on a hill, no chance, rolling backwards or stalling. And that's the sort of thing what crops up when you get your first car. Not always, I have to say. You know, some cars you'll get in there and it'll be breezy for it and it'll be a bit easier. But if you're one of them people where you're thinking, what do I do? I'm trying exactly what I was taught with the instructor and it's not working. So stay tuned and I'll give you some tips. Let's do a couple of little things to talk about what we can do then. So just say you've been taught in a diesel car, right? It's completely different than a petrol car, and I'm sure you've heard this loads of times with your instructor or your family member or whoever's saying to you, diesels are different than petrols, you get more miles per gallon. That's true. Diesel cars are a bit more forgiving than petrol cars, so when you're moving off, you'll get away with lifting the clutch off with not a lot of power on. And that could be the way you've been taught. So if you're like this, if you're going clutch down and then lifting the clutch up and then not pressing the gas much, lifting the clutch off, that's what's going to happen every time. You're going to stall the car. If you are stalling the car a lot every time you pull off because you're lifting the clutch off, then you need to look at things differently. And if you've got a petrol car, you've got to think petrol cars need a bit more power. They're not as forgiving as diesel cars. So you need to clutch down. You need to start thinking about putting some power on. It's going to need a little bit of power. Now I'm looking at a gas pedal there, and it's about 1,500 revs. If you get rid of that gas, every time you lift the clutch up, it's just going to cut out on you. So it's struggling then. So, and you've got to get used to where the biting point is. So one of the first tips then is, no gas to start off with then, and just lift on a little quiet road and feel the pull of the biting point. If you can't feel that pull, because it's struggling, then you're going to need some power to help control the engine more and lift the clutch a bit more, and you'll feel a pull. Definitely feel the pull at that point. As you lower it down, you'll feel the car drop off. And it'll feel like your first lesson when you first started talking about clutch control. But what you've got to state yourself is, you've been taught in a different car, and you've got to kind of remember some of the rules that the instructor told you, but at the same time, you're learning a new car, so you've got to learn things differently at the same time. So petrol cars tend to need more power. That's a given thing. You know, if you're going to pull off a junction, side road or a roundabout, you're going to need power. There's no ifs or buts. If you don't put the power on, you lift the clutch off, it's either going to stall or it's going to slow down and do about 2 miles an hour. So clutch down, first gear, get the power on, find that biting point, hold it, and remember, take your time. Have a look round and release the handbrake. And if you're not pulling over fast, that's fine, but you're not stalling at that point, so you're doing the trick, which is you're moving off. Count to 3, 2, 1, clutch comes off. And obviously changing gear is a lot easier. You know, it's pretty forgiving in a petrol car when you're in second, third and fourth gear. So we'll just do a right turn down here and we'll pull over again. And the same sort of thing here. You know, if I'm giving way to a car, clutching down, first gear, as the car goes past me, check my mirrors, a little bit of power, hold the biting point, let the car move. And just count to 3, 2, 1, and the left foot comes off slowly. That's what you've got to do. It's as simple as that. And lots of people say to me, well, every time I lift the clutch off, it stalls, or it jumps, or it kangaroos. It's because you're lifting the clutch off too quick, and you've got to slow it down. There's no way around it. Slow the clutch down, which means that left foot's got to slow right down. And if you're worried about rolling backwards because of the car behind you, we're going to go right here, by the way. Then I'll stop again. So we'll stop at the unmarked junction. So I'm lowering the clutch down, pop it in first gear, and if it's not very flat enough it's behind you, you can go gas biting point. But if you're going to go keep your foot on the brake and lift towards the biting point in a petrol car, if you're not very good at clutch control, it's just going to go and stall on you every time. So you go clutch down, restart the car, and save that embarrassment, stick the handbrake on, get some power on if you're worried about rolling backwards, and then get towards the biting point, but don't get a full biting point because it's going to try and pull off. And then hold the clutch still at 3, 2, 1. There's your 3 seconds. The car's picking up speed, clutch comes off. As soon as you get yourself straight, you're back into second gear at that point. Okay? So remember, it's not about speed at first when you get your first car. You're not going to race round like you did on your driving test and pull off dead quick and smooth. You've got to get used to the pedals, because if you don't, you're going to keep stalling, and before you know it, you're going to lose your confidence. And when you start losing your confidence, you're going to start holding back and hesitating at junction or roundabouts, and people are going to start bibbing you, and you'll start getting hesitant and nervous, and before you know it, it's a little snowball thing happens. It gets worse and worse and worse. You'll avoid hill starts, you'll avoid rush areas. So you've got to remember, practice is the key. That's basically what it is every time. Practice, practice, practice. So when I pull over on the left here, centre mirror left, no one around, so I don't need to signal. Lowering the clutch at this point, just like you normally do. And the brakes are going to be different also. You know, if you've been learning when a car's got power brakes, as soon as you start using normal brakes, you've got to press it harder. Use power brakes, press it softer. Have a look round, off the brake, gas, hold the clutch still, and take your time. It's not a race pulling off. And if you keep practicing that, with the one here, you can lower the clutch and do it again. On these little quiet roads, practice it. Have a look round, gas, biting point, hold it. Do it again, slowing down. And practice, little test. Look round, gas, biting point. Another little tip for you to get good at clutch control, it's that little speed bump there. We're going to stop on the speed bump, the front tyres. So it's now behind us. I'm going to let it stop on the speed bump, let it roll up it. There it goes, it's on the speed bump. Now if I come off the brake now, it's going to roll backwards. See? Straight away it's going to roll backwards. And you're going to worry about the cars behind at that point. So you just got to say to yourself, stop on the speed bump. I mean, if you can avoid them, great. But if you're stopping on the speed bump because it's a hill start, then you either put your handbrake on, or you've got to be pretty quick at your pedals. So handbrake, gas, biting point, and off we go. Right. Remember, don't try and be clever in the first few weeks or a month of driving your new car. Just get it so you can do it safely. So remember, little tip then is practice on a little straight bit, stop start, stop start, stop start, stop start, and try and do it 10 on the trot. You know, you don't have to use handbrake if it's flat. If there's nothing around you, you don't have to signal. So when you're moving off, gas, biting point, moving off nice, lowering the clutch. Let's do it again. The car stops, gas, biting point, we're moving off nicely, do it again. And it's holding that left foot still is the key. And if you're lifting that clutch off and it's doing that, that left foot's way too fast coming off. You're going past the biting point. You've got to find that biting point, practice it. Okay, I'm hoping this very quick video on clutch control in a different type of car is going to help you. If it does, fantastic. Give it the thumbs up and watch out for my next video next week.